You have been sitting in a business meeting for 45 minutes, listening to everyone speak in English. You understand the conversation. You know the data. And you even know what you want to add to the discussion. Then, the manager turns to you and asks for your opinion. You take a deep breath, you open your mouth, and you start speaking for the first 2 minutes. Everything goes perfectly fine, but suddenly, your mind goes completely blank. You cannot find the next word. Your heart starts beating faster. Your forehead feels warm, and your shoulders tense up. You feel like a runner who has just hit a solid brick wall after sprinting a marathon. You manage to finish your sentence using very basic, simple words. And then you sit back down, feeling absolutely drained. Your whole body feels like you have just carried heavy boxes up twin flights of stairs, even though you were just sitting in a comfortable office chair. This is not because you are weak, and it is definitely not because your English is bad. You are experiencing a real, physical phenomenon that scientists call language fatigue. In the next few minutes, we will look deep inside your skull to discover exactly why your brain gets so completely exhausted when you speak a second language. And we will learn the simple mental tricks to double your speaking stamina without changing your daily vocabulary. Welcome back to English Joyride, the place where we look at the fascinating science behind your language journey and turn it into simple, practical steps you can use today. If you have ever felt completely sleepy, stressed, or mentally done after a short English conversation, you are in the exact right place. Today, we are going to explore the hidden energy cost of fluency, how your brain manages its power supply, and what you can do to keep your mind fresh and sharp during long conversations. Before we jump into the brain science, make sure to click that subscribe button right now. Why should you subscribe today? Because next week, we are going to look at the psychological secrets of building social confidence. Specifically, how to stop caring about your accent so you can speak freely in any situation. You definitely want to join us for that ride. To understand why speaking English makes you feel so tired, we must first look at how your brain distributes its daily energy budget. Your brain is a relatively small organ, making up only about 2% of your total body weight. However, it is an absolute energy vampire, consuming more than 20% of all the oxygen and calories you take in every single day, under normal conditions. When you are living your life in your native language, your brain operates in a beautiful state of low energy automation. Think of your native language like driving a car on a completely empty highway that you have traveled down 1,000 times before. You do not have to think about pressing the gas pedal. You do not have to consciously remember how to use the steering wheel. And you do not have to stress about the upcoming turns. Your subconscious mind takes care of everything, allowing your conscious mind to relax, listen to music, or daydream about your weekend plans. Your brain loves this automation because it saves an incredible amount of glucose, which is the primary fuel your brain cells use to function. But the moment you switch your brain into English mode, that peaceful, automated highway turns into a chaotic, crowded city intersection during a massive rainstorm Suddenly, every single action requires direct, conscious control. Scientists trace this sudden spike in energy consumption to a specific area located right behind your forehead called the prefrontal cortex. This is the executive control center of your human brain. It is responsible for advanced planning, making difficult decisions, managing your working memory, and focusing your attention. When you speak your native language, the prefrontal cortex can mostly sleep in the back seat. But when you speak English, the prefrontal cortex has to wake up, grab the steering wheel with both hands, and work at maximum capacity. It has to coordinate a massive, complicated system of mental processes all at the exact same time. And this intense mental lifting burns through your brain's glucose supplies at an incredibly rapid pace. Let's break down the exact sequence of events that happens inside your head during a single second of an English conversation, so you can see why this requires so much fuel. First, you have to listen to the other person speaking. Your brain receives the sound waves, passes them through your auditory cortex, and then sends them to your working memory. Your working memory is like a tiny mental whiteboard where your brain temporarily holds information while trying to understand it. In your native language, this whiteboard is huge, and information is wiped clean instantly as you process it. In English, however, your working memory whiteboard is very small and fills up almost immediately. Your prefrontal cortex has to work overtime just to hold the beginning of the other person's sentence in your head while you are still trying to translate and understand the end of their sentence. This constant holding and processing of information creates a massive amount of cognitive load, which is just a scientific way of saying your brain is carrying too much weight at once. While you are working hard to understand the input, your brain must simultaneously prepare the output. This is where the real exhaustion begins. In your native language, your thoughts instantly turn into spoken words with zero conscious effort. You think of a happy memory, and the descriptive words flow out of your mouth naturally. But in English, your brain has to go through a complex, multi-step translation and selection process. Your thought forms in your mind, but your brain cannot find the English path immediately. Instead, it often finds the native language path first. Your prefrontal cortex then has to step in and perform a highly demanding task called cognitive inhibition. This means your brain must actively fight against your own native language, pushing down the natural words that want to come out, so that the English words can have a chance to surface. Imagine trying to hold a large, air-filled beach ball under the water with your bare hands. It constantly wants to pop up to the surface, and you have to use continuous physical force to keep it down. That is exactly what your brain is doing with your native language when you try to speak English. Once your brain successfully suppresses your native language, it must search through your vast mental dictionary to find the correct English vocabulary. This is not a passive process. Your brain has to scan through thousands of words, evaluate which word fits the context best, and then check if the grammar structure is correct. Should you use the past simple or the present perfect? Should you use an adjective before or after the noun? In your native language, these grammatical rules are deep muscular habits. But in English, you are often still checking them consciously against the mental rule book. After finding the words and arranging the grammar, your brain finally sends a signal to your motor cortex to move your mouth, tongue, and throat muscles to physically pronounce the sounds. Because English sounds are different from your native language sounds. Your facial muscles have to move in unusual ways, requiring even more conscious control and physical effort. This entire loop happens in a fraction of a second, thousands of times during a brief conversation, creating a continuous loop of intense mental friction. Quick question for everyone reading along right now. I want you to drop a comment below and tell me, exactly how long can you speak or listen to English before you start feeling that heavy, sleepy language fatigue set in? Is it 15 minutes? 30 minutes? Or can you go for an hour before your brain starts shutting down? Type your time below, because knowing your current limit is the absolute first step to extending your stamina. And in the next section, we will look at how your body physically responds to this mental workload. When your prefrontal cortex is working this hard for an extended period, your body interprets this intense cognitive load as a form of physical stress. Your brain does not understand the difference between the stress of running away from a wild animal and the stress of giving a presentation in a second language. To your survival-focused brain, stress is stress. Therefore, when your working memory begins to overflow and your glucose levels drop, your brain triggers your sympathetic nervous system, launching a mild version of the fight-or-flight response. Your adrenal glands begin to release small amounts of cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. This hormone release causes your heart rate to increase slightly, your breathing to become shallower, and your physical muscles to tighten up, particularly around your neck, shoulders, and jaw. This is why language fatigue does not just feel like a tired mind. It actually feels like a tired body. You leave an English conversation with a stiff neck, a slight headache, or a deep desire to lie down on the bed and stare at the ceiling in complete silence. This stress response creates a dangerous loop that intermediate learners often fall into. As your brain gets tired from the high cognitive load, you start making small mistakes. You might forget a simple vocabulary word, mispronounce a common term, or use the wrong verb tense. When you notice these mistakes, your prefrontal cortex experiences a surge of anxiety and self-criticism. You think to yourself, "Oh no, I am speaking poorly. Everyone thinks I am not smart." This negative emotional response immediately demands even more energy from your brain. Now, your prefrontal cortex is not just managing language translation, vocabulary selection, and grammar checks. It is also trying to manage your anxiety and hide your fear. This emotional management is incredibly expensive in terms of brain fuel. It is like running a heavy computer application in the background while trying to play a high-definition video game. Your system simply freezes up. And that is the exact moment your mind goes completely blank. So, how do we solve this? How do we stop our brains from burning through all our fuel during a simple conversation? The secret is not to study more grammar or memorize thousands of rare words. In fact, Trying to use overly complex language will only drain your battery faster. Instead, the solution lies in a concept called cognitive load reduction. We need to find ways to make speaking English require less conscious effort from your prefrontal cortex, transforming those stressful city intersections back into automated highways. We can achieve this by implementing 3 highly practical, science-backed strategies that you can start using today. The first strategy is the absolute foundation of energy conservation, and it is called the chunking technique. Most intermediate learners try to build their English sentences word by word, like building a giant house out of tiny, individual blocks of Lego. They think of a noun, then they search for a verb, then they look for an adjective, and then they connect them with a preposition. This word-by-word construction method requires a massive amount of processing power from your working memory whiteboard. Every single word is a new decision your brain has to make. To fix this, you need to start training your brain to speak in prefabricated chunks of language. Chunks are natural combinations of words that always go together, like a pre-assembled section of a house. Phrases like, as far as I know, to be honest with you, from my perspective, or let's take a look at, are processed by your brain as a single unit, rather than 5 separate words. When you use a chunk, your prefrontal cortex only has to make one single decision to produce a long string of accurate, fluent speech. This gives your working memory a temporary break, allowing your brain to rest and gather its energy for the next part of the sentence. The second strategy focuses on managing your physical stress response during the conversation, and we call it intentional pausing. When non-native speakers feel their brain getting tired or their mind going blank, their natural instinct is to rush. They try to speak faster and faster to get the words out before their energy completely disappears. This rushing behavior causes your breathing to become very shallow, which reduces the amount of oxygen reaching your brain, accelerating your language fatigue. Instead of rushing, you must learn to embrace the power of a strategic pause. When you feel that mental friction building up, simply stop speaking for 2 or 3 seconds. Take a deep, slow breath down into your belly and let your shoulders drop. To keep the conversation smooth, you can use filler chunks to buy yourself time, such as, "That is a very interesting question. Let me think about that for a second." Or, "How should I put this?" These phrases sound incredibly natural to native speakers, but more importantly, they act as a vital energy reset button for your brain, lowering your heart rate and allowing your prefrontal cortex to catch its breath. The third strategy is a daily practice routine known as low-stakes output training. Many learners only ever speak English when the stakes are incredibly high, such as during an important job interview, a critical client meeting, or a conversation with a native-speaking boss. Because these situations are naturally stressful, their brains are always operating at maximum energy consumption, making them associate English with extreme exhaustion. To break this association, you need to build up your language stamina in a safe, completely relaxed environment where mistakes do not matter at all. You can do this by spending 5 minutes every single day talking out loud to yourself in your bedroom. describing your plans for the day, or talking about a movie you recently watched, because there is no one there to judge you. Your anxiety levels remain at zero, allowing your brain to practice the physical movements of English speech and the mental pathways of translation without the added burden of emotional management. Over time, this safe practice builds deep muscular and neurological habits, moving your English from the conscious prefrontal cortex down into the automated parts of your brain. Let's take a quick look at your daily schedule to see how you can apply this. Tell me in the comments, do you currently have any safe, low-stakes environments where you can practice English without feeling any pressure or fear of making mistakes? If you do not, write down one simple way you can create that space this week, whether it is talking to your pet, recording short voice notes on your phone, or journaling your thoughts. I want to see how you plan to build your stamina safely. As you implement these strategies, it is also highly important to support your brain's physical health during days when you know you will have to speak a lot of English. Since language fatigue is caused by a physical drop in glucose and oxygen inside your prefrontal cortex, you can directly improve your stamina by managing your body's resources. First, never go into an important English meeting or exam on an empty stomach. Your brain needs a steady supply of clean energy to handle high cognitive loads. So eating a healthy meal with complex carbohydrates before speaking can give your mind the sustained fuel it needs. Second, stay completely hydrated. Even mild dehydration can cause a sharp drop in your working memory capacity and processing speed, making your brain work twice as hard to perform the same translation tasks. Keep a glass of water on your desk and take small sips during your conversation, using those sips as natural, intentional pauses to rest your mind. I want you to hold on to one comforting truth as we prepare to wrap up our discussion today. Experiencing language fatigue is not a sign that you are failing or that you will never achieve true fluency. It is simply a sign that your brain is actively working, adapting, and growing to accommodate a whole new operating system. Every single person who speaks a second language fluently today has passed through this exact stage of physical exhaustion. They also felt the headaches, the blank minds, and the deep desire to retreat into their native language after a long conversation. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who break through is simply their understanding of the process. When you realize that your fatigue is just a temporary energy management problem rather than a lack of intelligence, you can stop judging yourself, start reducing your cognitive load, and allow your brain the time and space it needs to automate the language. Let's quickly review the core lessons from our journey today so you can carry them forward clearly. First, speaking English causes deep physical exhaustion because your prefrontal cortex must consciously manage translation, vocabulary selection, and grammar checks while actively suppressing your native language, burning through your brain's energy budget at maximum speed. Second, this high cognitive load triggers a physical stress response, raising your heart rate and creating physical tension that can cause your mind to go completely blank. Third, you can dramatically increase your speaking stamina by using prefabricated chunks of language to save processing power, practicing intentional pausing and deep breathing to manage stress, and training daily in low-stakes environments to turn conscious speech into an automated habit, your direct action plan for the next 24 hours is beautifully simple. Identify one specific situation tomorrow where you know you will have to use English. Before that situation begins, take 3 deep belly breaths to relax your nervous system. During the conversation, make a conscious decision to slow down, embrace short pauses, and focus on using simple, pre-built chunks of words rather than trying to construct perfect sentences block by block. Protect your brain's energy budget. Treat your mind with kindness. And remember that every small step of friction is shaping your path to effortless fluency. If this deep dive into brain science helped you understand your own language, fatigue a little bit better, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss our weekly journeys into the human mind. Next week, we are going to explore the fascinating psychological reasons why your English can sound completely perfect when you talk to yourself in the mirror, but suddenly falls apart the moment a native speaker looks you in the eye. We will give you the exact mental tools to bridge that gap forever. You can click right here to watch the next step of your fluency ride. Keep exploring the science, keep taking care of your amazing brain, and enjoy every single moment of your joyful ride to fluency.